Welcome to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen, the Unquit Forever podcast. Today, my VIP guest is Arjun Malhotra. Arjun is a pioneer of the Indian IT industry, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He, along with 5 friends, co-founded HCL, the prominent face of Indian IT from back in late 1970s, and was the vice chairman till 1998. Malhotra has a long string of entrepreneurial success. He serves as the chairman of Solmar and Magic Software Inc. and is on the board of several companies. Malhotra gave a boost to the telecommunication education in India by endowing and establishing the G.S. Sanyal School of Telecommunication at IIT Kharagpur in 1996. Welcome, Arjun Malhotra. Arjun, you have been a mentor to me, both professionally as well as personally, as you handle yourself, as you're always there for a bigger cause and for everybody else. So today it's a pleasure to celebrate you. To start with, I want you to please share what you're comfortable about one of maybe the biggest accomplishments in your life when you look back, please.
Well, when I was 25, 26, I left what was then a comfortable job with one of the bigger companies in India and started a company with 5 other friends, co-founders. No one in the family had ever done business I come from a family of people in service, in education, in the army, scientists. And so it was completely alien to do that. I think making it a success, we started this company called Hindustan Computers Limited. It's now called HCL Technologies. Making it a success over the last, I guess, now how many years? 1975. So 25, 50 years
Wow.
has been, yeah. I, of course, was with them for 23 years. But yeah, that's when basically the company started its real momentum. And I think that I look back at that with a lot of satisfaction. In fact, even today, when people talk to me, they associate me with HCL. And I always tell my wife that I think I've left a piece of me in HCL. It's there. Nothing I can do about it. It's like having a kid.
Absolutely. So to me, I think the journey from HCL to HCL Technologies, especially when you travel to US for the first time, is a fascinating journey. Can you share a little bit about how the transition happened and how you self-discovered in that journey?
Yeah, so HCL was a hardware company.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of innovative things in hardware for our particular market. In fact, we announced our first commercial 8-bit machine the same year and month as which Apple came out in the US. Now, we didn't know this at that time, but looking back, I think it was a phenomenal achievement because India was a closed country and everything had to be imported at least. So what we've done is we innovated. We just didn't make a computer. We added what is called India had a lot of power problems. Power would go on and off unpredictably. And trying to recover a computer from a power failure is a major issue. And you need experienced programmers, which we didn't have too many of them in India. And so we built what we called a power shut-off auto restart, put a lead acid truck battery and connected it to the computer. And the software was written such that when the power failed, all the registers were held where the power stopped. And when the power came back, the computer worked as if it hadn't stopped from where point which it stopped. Yeah, so that was the big thing. We came to the US, we'd done a lot of work on Unix. Unix sources were available. Unix was a scientific operating system. We added a file system to it, compilers, spoolers, just made it a commercial system. And because India was part of the Eastern blocs, the so-called Russian bloc, we were restricted in terms of the kind of chips we could get. So when Motorola came out with the 68030, Department of Commerce in the US didn't clear it for us. And so, but our customers read English technical magazines. They all wanted that power. So we ended up building a multiprocessor machine using the 68020 to give them that kind of terminals and power and stuff. during one of our Computer Society of India exhibitions, VP from AT&T had come over, and AT&T had bought Unix, and he was quite impressed with what we had. And he basically mentioned that multiprocessor machines running Unix cost around $1 million in the US. They came from Pyramid and MIPS. Those are the companies doing it. And he felt that our computer at about 100,000 would fit a nice niche. And so we got McKinsey to do a study for us. And they confirmed that, yes, that niche exists for hardware. So we came to the US in late 1988 to basically manufacture and sell hardware. We got immediately, or nearly immediately, got a $50 million OEM order from a company called Fortune Systems. And we were, adapting our machine, getting all the things like UL, getting Micro Focus, COBOL, getting the databases, the enabling technologies, putting them on the machine. And what happened was Fortune got bought by SCI. SCI out in Texas wanted to go only with Intel chips. And so suddenly we had a piece of paper which was an order with, that didn't exist. We had already spent 3 million odd of our 5 million equity that we'd been allowed in doing that. And the founder who had come here to run it had to go through a bypass. Now, bypasses weren't that common in those days, heart bypasses. He did mention he'd be back allowed to drive in 10 days. In India, we thought that he was overstraining himself unnecessarily. So I was sent here to basically take the load off him and quietly shut the company down because we had taken a lot of mileage about selling hardware into the US. So when I came here, basically, I sort of realized that we were not really, our expertise wasn't really in hardware manufacturing. It was probably in hardware design, but our real expertise was in multiprocessor work. And what we were doing with all these enabling technologies, databases, compilers, is extending them to be used on a multiprocessor hardware. And so I went and talked to them and said, look, I don't need to give you my engineers to do this. I'm planning to shut down and go back to India. They all said that they're willing to pay for that extensions that were being done. And so all of a sudden I had a cash flow. I was making money and I needed some working capital. So I used $500,000 of that balance 2 million that we had. And then I managed my own cash flow. And that over time morphed into what we now know as an IT services company, HCL Technologies, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. I think its market capped at, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 billion.
Wow.
Doing pretty well. 250,000 employees all over the world. Yeah, HCL's a huge company now.
Yeah, and in retrospect, when you start looking at 1975, how it started, that too in India, how you solved for the power outage, and how 1988 you came in, and how you went through adversity and you quickly course corrected based on current strength. It's amazing. So Arjun, talking about success, in your amazing career, there must have been times when you felt writing on the wall, let's quit and move forward. Are you comfortable sharing any moment like this and how you navigated through that, please?
Sure. It happened to me when I graduated from college. I actually my plan was to go get a PhD from either Berkeley or Stanford and work with NASA. In fact, the funny thing is when I graduated, computers was an option that I didn't take. I took control systems because I thought I would be working with NASA on satellite control. And I want to that is what I wanted to do my PhD on. I stayed back in India basically to get married. I had decided who I wanted to get married to. Obviously, her father was not going to let her get married to someone who didn't have a quote unquote a confirmed job. So I took a job, got confirmed, got married 14 days after I got confirmed. What happened was I was joined as a senior management trainee at DCM. DCM decided it was a conglomerate in textiles, food, chemicals, rayon tire cord, fertilizers. the fourth largest company, private sector company in India on revenue at that time. They decided to get into electronics. And I was probably, if not the only, one of the few electronics engineers in the company.
Mm.
And so I was called by the big boss and told that you will either head R&D and production or sales and marketing, depending on who we can find in the market. And I thought to myself, 1 year out of college, who is going to give me this kind of responsibility? And so they found someone from Indian Telephone Industries to look after the production. So I ended up looking after the field. And it was just, and it's primary marketing. You're trying to create a market, you're trying to see how to differentiate yourself with a high overhead environment compared to assemblers who are doing it from their homes. But that's how calculators were being assembled. And so we built an R&D to try and give functionality to our customers and charge a premium for it. And that worked really well. We had about 80+% of the market, very profitable. That's what kept me back for 5 years. What happened was when we started HCL, 10 years down, the company had grown fairly large. India communication was very poor. If you remember, cell phones hadn't come in and landlines were really bad. We had offices all over the country. By the time you sent a circular about a change, it took 30 days before the last remote office would get it and implement it. I don't know, that sort of was fairly frustrating for me. And I just decided that maybe, the company was big enough. I was financially I felt I was comfortable. I thought I'd go back to academics, go do my master's, PhD, and get back to research or teaching. What happened was I talked to the people in the company and suggested I had picked up a cottage in Missouri, which is the hill station.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd go spend 3 months there and sort of clear up my head on what I wanted to do. Everyone gave me good advice. They said, you'll be as confused 3 months later as you are now. So why don't you go do a management program somewhere? That way you learn something, as well as you'll talk to people who don't have an agenda, or you feel don't have an agenda with you, and maybe you'll sort it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Harvard for the advanced management program in 1985. Realized I was going through a midlife crisis and sort of sorted myself out. Came back in the middle of 85 to the company and said I didn't want my old job back. But what I wanted to do was all the new initiatives, I was willing to take it up. And we set up a process where I became an entrepreneur. It's like I gave a business plan. They would give me money if they approved it. I would get that kind of draw from our central accounts. And then I would run it independently. And if I needed more money, I had to go back to the board. And we started CAD/CAM as a division at that time. That worked out really well. It became, got merged into the computer people a few years later. But actually, some of our largest orders at that time came from the CAD/CAM division. For me, it was great because I went back to my engineering roots, and sort of that was probably the best time I had. You were selling engineering solutions rather than just selling application solutions. But yeah, so that's how I did it. And the people who helped me were really people I didn't know, people from different companies who were attending the same program, and you could talk to them and get a non-agenda view. And it's I keep telling people that living a bohemian existence with money in your pocket, there's nothing better than that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what program at Howard, 10 years or 15 years after you leave college. It really was interesting. Made some good friends. In fact, our CAN group, we used to meet every alternative year somewhere in the world, spend 2 weeks together on a vacation till some of them passed away, and it doesn't happen now. But yeah, I also discovered I was the youngest guy on the program. I only think I got into the program because, we put our comma at the wrong place, in the sense that not after 3 digits, but after 2 digits to show crores and lakhs. And I think got confused about the size of the company. because they wanted a $300 million minimum. We were 80 crores, which was nowhere near 300 million. And I still got admission. So, I think the only reason is they got confused on the numbers.
And what you did at DCM, it really, me being, 10, 15 years behind you at IIT Kharagpur, opened the door for all of us, because DCM was one of the top sought after jobs for all of us after you opened the path. And thank you for sharing this adventure. One of the things I would request you, if you reflect back and have to give advice to some of us as we are listening, when we get to an adversity, we think it's the end of the world. With all your wisdom, how does Arjun Malhotra look at adversity? What are some advice you have how to get through, please?
I get a lot of flack for how I look at this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
My logic is I don't worry about a problem unless my worrying can give me a solution to the problem. So if I get a problem, I try to think of solutions.
Mm-hmm.
I try to think of, what's the way to solve it. And invariably, you'll find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
My wife thinks I'm a machine because she says, hey, you don't worry. But my logic is that if I worry, does it change the outcome of what I'm worrying about? If it doesn't, then why should I worry? I should spend my time thinking of how to solve the problem
Mm-hmm.
and try to come up with some kind of work around a solution or whatever is needed. So that's how I try to look at things. I also believe that you've got to live life with the cards you're dealt. You can't crib about, I wish I had the Joker or whatever better card. You got what you have. That's what you got to maximize whatever you need to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, everyone talks about luck and fate and stuff. I tell them, I don't believe in any of that. Yes, I have had my palm read, and you do that in India because you saw people want you to do it. And the nice thing is, all of them have told me that my destiny is in my own hands. I write my destiny. And so that's what I believe in. I do. I have to write it. I don't think anyone else can write it.
I love that. And especially, I think, how you put perspective, that anytime there's a worry, the only action is finding a solution. Rest, we are literally sinking. That's huge. So, Arjun, this is great wisdom, great, insights. I want to put you in a hypothetical situation. Like you are in India, you're going on a vacation. Let's say you meet 100-year-old Arjun. What would you ask him and what would you tell him?
So if I met someone who was 100 years old, I would have assumed that, look, he would have spent a lot more time looking after himself, his body, whatever, than I have done. Okay. So the first thing is that he would probably, the second thing I would say is, I wish I could have spent more time with, say, my parents or with people I really care for. I was on the road. My kids grew up. I hardly knew them. In the sense, I was on the road 20 days a month. I think my wife and my parents did a phenomenal job, but I just didn't have the time, or I spent enough time with them, which I regret. And they make it a point to tell me, because now I try and spend more time with my grandchildren. And I always get this thing that you never did that with me. Answer to that is, what don't you understand about the word grand? But, that's my trying to escape from that whole situation. That was it. So I think I would, if I had to relive my life and get to 100, I'd probably spend a lot more time on looking after my physical body, my health, and spending more time with children and people I care for and love, friends, family, a lot more than what I did earlier. I was too driven.
That was so wisely stated, because I also look at, you and I both have the same wealth, 24 hours in a day. Sometimes for career and other passion areas, to put more time, we can generate more. We have to borrow, steal. And I've also realized that I have stolen time from future Arjun, which is I didn't take care of myself, or family members to invest without their consent. So now it also gets back. So Arjun,
Yeah.
this is a great conversation, Arjun. So you have been very kind as always to me as an individual, great mentor. Do you have any questions for me?
No, no, none at all. I saw your movie. I thought it was very impressive. In fact, I'm amazed at the amount of fighting you did. The amount, I can't. I've been through a couple of surgeries, actually one surgery, and I thank God I don't think I'm going to go through another one. But I can't imagine what you've been through, and so hats off. I and I didn't know that till I saw the movie, and I presume the movie was accurate to that extent. They didn't take the license that normally people have, who artist license, where they put things in a certain way. Knowing you, I know I had heard some of it before, but yeah. So really impressive.
Yeah, only thing they did in the movie was just to put a 40-year life in 2 hours. They condensed a lot of things. Like when you see 5 surgeries happening at the same time, I think that's but I think that's the creative liberty. But again, and on that journey, just like you said, there was no room for worry or anything. Like I just wanted to be there for my daughter's wedding and wanted to put my best effort. If it happened, well, good. If it didn't happen, I tried. And that's it. That was a simple journey. And that was there.
Yeah, I think the key lesson I would say from that, and from a lot of things I've learned, is that you have to set a goal for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The goal can't be a simple goal. And the way I look at it is, if you get to a point where you think you're going to achieve the goal, then you should move it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes for you're always chasing your tail, or you're always chasing something,
Mm-hmm.
but that's better than feeling comfortable and saying, hey, and fortunately for me in the IT business, you have to keep learning. You can't say, I know enough, I don't need to learn anymore. You're defunct at the minute you do something like that.
That's well said. Thank you, Arjun. As always, appreciate you, appreciate everything you do for us. Wish you all the best. And again, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Not, thanks, sir. Take care. Bye.